Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is a special Thursday edition of the podcast. Normally I like to post on Tuesdays, but I recorded one on Tuesday and it wasn't hitting. It wasn't hitting. So I am back in my cozy little trashy couch corner again with my cat beside me. So I'm trying to work around her. Um, because I think today's the day. I'm excited to. I really want to share things weekly because for me, it's a really good exercise to just let things move through me. Like I get a lot of ideas, and sometimes they just kind of sit stagnant in my body. So I really love this as a form of self expression for me, and then in the hopes in the with the idea and the intention that what is coming through me is also supportive for you, the listeners, my community, all of us here listening together. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much. It honestly is so nice. These are it's just basically an audio diary. I think I've probably said that before, but I really it's like a free write. A verbal free write is kind of what I like to call it. So it's kind of everything that's in me and wants to come out. And they're all unedited. I record and I post. And so sometimes I go on little tangents, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think we're here for all the messiness, right? We're here for the real. We're here for the truth. We're here for comfort. We're here for safety. We're here for coming home to ourselves. So that's what this podcast is all about. And what I'm really grateful to bring you every single week from here on out is kind of the goal. See, there's my cat now. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that has kind of been coming up for me pretty strongly in the last couple weeks, probably a few months since my husband and I have separated. And it's very confronting and it's still something that I'm working through, but it came through this morning as in like, we should talk about this. So I'm going to share it. And I really want to also share some ways that I move through it or have been trying to move through it. And so this is again a riff. Welcome to my riff, and it's on self-abandonment. We're going to be talking about self-abandonment and sort of the normalization of self-abandonment in modern culture, specifically with women and mothers. And we talk about kind of giving everything a lot. I think I've heard that my whole life around like mothers kind of give everything they have and then they are left with nothing almost, or like there's a self-care aspect that women need to kind of come back to. However, I want to talk about it from more of like, I guess from self-abandonment versus just simply, how do I want to say this? There's just a bit more of a depth, a bit more of a real truth that I'm feeling when it comes to the term self-abandonment versus just like mothers giving too much, especially this time of year because it's Christmas time next week. It's Christmas next week. And I'm recognizing over the last definitely week how much mental and just emotional energy goes into creating the magic of Christmas. And don't get me wrong, I'm very, very grateful and I'm really loving the magic that is being created. However, I am very tired. And I have been abandoning myself and my needs in the process because I want to create that magic for my kids. However, we can also do it in a way that is more authentic to us as individuals rather than just partaking in everything is kind of something that I'm experiencing within the Christmas realm. This conversation is going to go beyond just Christmas. However, I think it applies very strongly in all aspects of our lives because I think when we talk about boundaries, we talk about self-abandonment. When we talk about just simply taking care of ourselves as women and as mothers, as human beings, really, I want to kind of get away from this conversation of just mothers, because I think we know by now that as mothers, we're in a league of our own, okay? I'm just going to say it. We're in a league of our own. It is what it is. So we don't always have to separate ourselves and be like, mothers. It's just, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't feel like it fits. Like I want to talk about humanity because when we as humans, when we on the human level, remember how to come back to ourselves and come back to the truth of who we are as individuals, but like as humans as a whole, then those roles kind of become obvious and just known and trusted. I hope that makes sense, because in my body it's like, when we trust ourselves, when we trust humanity, when we trust the natural progression of things, when we trust the universe and, how things are unfolding, when we trust in what is for us individually, but trust in what is for others as well, then we kind of, yeah, we fall into our roles more naturally, more easily, more fluidly. Fluidly? Is that a word? Fluidly? It is right now. I think it is. And it just feels safer. There's a deeper sense of safety when we trust. And then we don't have to always say, like, well, mothers do XYZ and women are, blah, blah, blah. Let's get back to the humanity, to the core of what the human is. And then we can start to go, okay, this is where I'm at in this stage of my life, because we're constantly moving in and out of roles, right? We all wear lots of hats. We all do lots of things. So, anyway, that was a tangent. I want to talk about self abandonment because I am learning. I'm going to share my personal experience, and then hopefully within that, my intention is that you'll be able to find nuggets that fit within you as well. So, disclaimer is that my personal experience with self abandonment is what I'm going to share. I do not expect that it's going to be your experience. I want this to just you to just hear my story and then find what resonates with you and leave what doesn't, okay? Because again, this is a personal experience and we're all going to experience this likely differently, and sometimes in similar ways, but likely differently. So self-abandonment has been coming up for me over the last few months. My husband and I separated in August, so it's been about 4 months, 4 and a bit months of living separately, being separated. We still communicate very often, almost daily. Obviously, there's children involved. There's a lot going on, and a lot of connection still there, which is lovely. I'm really appreciative of how we've been able to navigate this next phase of our lives. But the space that I have experienced in that, and it wasn't because he was smothering me or any way, but sometimes, this is for me anyway, I need a lot of physical space to myself in order to process things and allow things to come forward. So in this space, in these last 4 months, these little sort of like inklings and trickling in of realization of what I have been doing to myself over the last several years, even before my husband as well. Like, this is just my experience as a human being has involved a lot of self-abandonment. And if you identify with being a people pleaser, um, then you may identify with this as well. But I'm realizing that as I move through my life as an adult woman and now a mother who has children to look after and to model for, I am realizing that my tendency to abandon myself it's almost subconscious. And it happens every day in little things. And most recently, little things like coffee. I've talked about coffee a lot. So I know that my body doesn't feel great when I drink a lot of coffee. And it really doesn't feel great when I drink coffee at all. Sometimes in some spaces during my cycle, it feels fine. But for the most part, let's say 70% of the time, I know my body doesn't want coffee. And yet I will still choose to have a cup of coffee because it's a normal thing for me. It tastes good and it's part of my routine, I guess, if you will. But I'm starting to realize that me continuing to choose what my body does not want, what I know that my body does not want, like it's not craving it, It's I used to love coffee. Like I used to really look forward to my coffees. I used to really kind of relish in my coffee. And again, sometimes I do still. However, it is very, very much more infrequent than it used to be. So I really used to love coffee. It was really kind of part of my life. And now as I move into this next phase of my life, I am just recognizing that more often than not, my body isn't craving coffee, yet I'm still having it. And so this isn't even like a giant example, but it leads into other experiences of self-abandonment. And in this experience specifically, so I am still choosing to do something, to consume something. So we can choose to consume things, visually, emotionally, physically, financially. And I know that it is not serving me fully. So the only way I can explain that is that like I know that my body is not like craving this thing, and I'm not getting that like, oh, thank goodness, I'm so excited. This is so cozy and amazing and warm, and this is exactly what I wanted. I'm not receiving that. And that's okay. You don't have to receive that every single time, but I'm just recognizing in my own experience that I am continuing to choose something that I know is not fulfilling me completely. So I'm settling for a sense of mediocrity here. And mediocrity is really something that has been a theme coming forward for me over the last year of us collectively, but me personally, settling for a sense of mediocrity within my own life and within my own experiences. And this again applies to little everyday experiences, and it applies to bigger picture things like we are settling for mediocrity in birth, in pregnancy, in motherhood, because we are simply taking what is given to us because we have been told that this is the way it's supposed to be. But we're forgetting the fact that we are individuals. We have different experiences. And while we are all animals and we are all mammals and we are all mothers in this sense, we are going to have different needs, different desires, and different needs for our bodies, for our beings, and it's not just our physical bodies, it's for our mental bodies, our emotional bodies, our spiritual bodies. Like we really, does it feel really good in the body, in the being? If not, maybe it's something to reconsider, right? So there's an example of self-abandonment is this coffee thing. And then the other day, so here is something that I recorded this on Tuesday, but it didn't quite come out right. And this is one of the reasons just I wasn't ready to post it. So one thing else I wanted to add to this self-abandonment principle is when we are mothering human beings, when we are caring for other human beings, there is a level of self-abandonment that I think just happens. And we accept it, we're aware of it, it's just part of it. There's some moments where we put the needs of our children above our own. When it comes to like emotional outbursts, or when it comes to the needs of the day or the schedule and things like that, sometimes those needs need to take precedence over our own. So when I talk about self-abandonment, I'm not saying like we need to do everything for ourselves, but I do think it's really important that we are really truly tuning into the body and finding ways to explore self-abandonment. So another thing that I have been noticing within myself is from a place of nourishment and movement in the body. So ever since I gave birth to my first child, I have had major changes in the body. My body has changed dramatically. At least it feels dramatic to me. Which is actually not a bad thing. And I've really learned to love this new body. There's a whole process around it. There's a lot that goes into creating a new relationship with a new body as a woman, especially as a woman who has become a mother, and the body is not just yours anymore. It is something that is shared likely with your children. It's something where you're nourishing them from, it's just, there's a lot that happens in there. So what I realized the other week is I've kind of been in this space of like not really feeling like I resonate. Like I look in the mirror sometimes and I'm like, I don't really connect to that human being. Like who is that human? I'm having a hard time feeling connected to this human being that I see in the mirror. I don't know who she is sometimes. And sometimes it's very sort of surface level and it's like, hey, who are you? And then sometimes it's like, no, seriously, who the F are you? Like there's different levels and layers to the day to day. But what I realized last week is that I have been settling for a level of mediocrity in reconnecting to my body. I'm just sort of letting it flow, which is beautiful. There's a beauty to letting things flow. However, I am also a person who desires structure, and I have not been putting structure to the way that I take care of my body, both with food, hydration, movement, um, like moisturizer, like that kind of, like everything when it comes to that. So there's not a lot of structure. It's kind of like when I feel like it, I do it. But it's a form of self-abandonment for me because I'm settling for a level of mediocrity because I know that I feel the best in my body and my soul and my heart when I move my body consistently. And that usually looks like an at-home workout of like 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm not doing this to lose weight necessarily. I'm doing this to feel strong and good in my body because that's when I feel good. However, I was taking stock the other day and I was like, wow, I am settling for such mediocrity because I'm just allowing this to flow, which means that some weeks, some days look really good and I feel really consistent and I feel really strong and I feel like I'm, doing all the things. And then I'll go weeks of doing nothing and I'll feel heavy and I'll feel stagnant and I'll feel dense and I'll just feel blah. Like I'll just feel congested in a way, like energetically congested. And I'll let that happen. When really, I was thinking about it and I thought, it doesn't take that much extra effort for me as a human being to go to bed at 10 p.m. every night and wake up at 6:30 to do a 20-minute workout before my kids get up. It doesn't take that much time. It doesn't take that much extra effort. And it's allowing me to then take care of myself in a way that I know feels really, really good. And so I just had this kind of aha moment of like, whoa, I thought I was taking care of myself by letting it flow and letting myself kind of get there on my own, I guess. But then I thought, what I've been craving is structure, but I'm not really giving myself that structure. So here I am settling for mediocrity in the way that I take care of myself, in the way that I feed myself, because I'm getting my kids breakfast ready, and then I end up eating their leftover cereal while we run out the door. And I'm like, okay, this is not how I want to be taking care of myself. I want to have a nourishing meal. I want to move my body. I want to feel like the best version of myself. And I think for so long I've been running from this, like, or not running from, but trying to disconnect from this version of myself that was go, 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 achieve, 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 climb the corporate ladder. And I've kind of wanted to sink into this softer, more feminine energy where we flow and we trust and we hold space and we do this, which is incredible. And I really, really am grateful for where that journey has taken me. However, in doing so, I've kind of overcorrected in a way where I'm now almost structure free. Like there's no structure in the day or in the way I take care of myself. So that to me was a wake up call of like, okay, well, here I am abandoning myself again. Because every time I'm in that moment of where it feels really, really good and I'm moving my body and I'm feeling strong, and then I allow myself to continue to rest. Hang on, how am I going to say this? Not allow myself to continue to rest, but every time I don't sort of honor myself in that way and I don't get up when I say I'm going to get up, or I push snooze one more time, or I'm rushing out the door and then I get frustrated at my kids because I didn't organize my time properly. It's just interesting that I'm learning now that in order to show up for myself as a woman who doesn't really want to settle for mediocrity, but has been settling for mediocrity in the way that I take care of myself and the way that I show up in my family, it's okay to go back and implement some structure for me. And again, it's like trial by error, trial by error. Wow, I'm having a hard time speaking today. Trial and error, trial and error. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get up every single day this week then. And I thought, okay, no. But what if I get up 3 days a week? I can do 3 days a week. I can do that. I can get up and do a 20, 30-minute workout 3 days a week. Okay. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's do that. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I'll go for an afternoon walk before I pick up the kids, or I'll move my body in that sort of a way. And I'll hold myself to that. And I've been doing that for the last couple weeks and I feel really good. I feel really good. I want to eat better. I want to stretch my body. I want to connect with myself. But it's hard. It's so easy to abandon the self because, especially when we are, anyway, it's just easy to abandon the self. It's easy. And then it's easy to overcorrect in the other way, where we are then in a space of like hyper focus and the balance is gone. So I want to be able to allow the fluidity to continue in my life while creating a little bit of structure. So if I can create a little bit of structure that I can get up before my kids, sometimes they wake up with me, that's fine. I can still work out. Like, I don't have to stop what I'm doing in order because my kids are up. They can do their own thing, or they can come do it with me, or whatever. Anyway, that's another way that I've been abandoning myself. And I really want to kind of get back, and I'm starting to get back into how do I commit to myself? And it's not like, I don't want this to come across like I'm expecting like amazing feats, because part of my brain is still wired. It's still wired to be like, okay, well, to be this high achieving type A person where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to work out, I got to work out, really hard. I got to go every day. I got to have a goal. I want to get to XYZ weight. I want to look like this. I want to do that. And I'm like, no, let's just start with committing to myself rather than committing to a goal. Okay. So let's start with committing to the self rather than committing to a goal, because there's a different energy to that than there's a different energy between the two. There's a different energy of like, okay, I'm committing to myself because I love and trust myself. And I trust that it's all going to come together, and whatever I desire is the movement, the nourishment, the love that I'm going to pour into my body is going to get me to wherever I'm meant to be. Because I'm learning for myself, and I don't know if this is the same for you, but a lot of the times I'll have this idea of what I want in my head, and I'll push towards this goal. I'll push towards this manifestation. And I'll like try and get myself there. And whenever I get there, it's never exactly what I expected or what I thought. It's actually different, but also better. So it's almost like, for me, I've got these blinders up to what I actually want and need and desire. And when I let my body lead me, by listening to its cues, which is this coffee doesn't feel good in my body, or I feel really good when I move my body almost every day. So those are cues from the body. And I'm recognizing that that's when things fall into place. That's when things fall into place, is when I'm listening to the cues of my body and I'm moving forward. Because when you're listening to the cues of your body, the self-abandonment happens when we hear these cues, we say, cool, and then we push past them, or we choose differently, or we move in the way that is familiar to us and feels safe, but isn't necessarily what the cues of your body are telling you to do, if that makes sense. So yes, and I wanted to say something that I thought, I was driving today and I was like, I gotta write this down, because you can believe something to be true. You can believe that something is true and available. You can believe that, let's just use the example of, you can believe that women can free birth in their house, but you can believe and still not trust that something is for you, and still not trust it. You can believe it to be true and still not trust it for yourself. So when it comes to the abandonment of ourselves in these kind of everyday moments, it really takes pause. It really takes intention, and it really takes you truly stopping, hearing what's being said, and then trusting that what the body is saying is what the body needs. And that's something that I still have not done. I had 2 coffees today. Neither of them were like amazing, but I still ate them both. I still drank them both. I think coffee is a funny one, though. I think it's a drug. It's a drug. I can't. Something's wrong with it. Something's wrong with it, at least for me. So there's that. Another example of self-abandonment that I wanted to share is just in some really hard conversations that I've had recently with people close to me, and me realizing that me avoiding having these conversations is also a form of self-abandonment, because when the people closest to you are eliciting some sort of physical reaction in your body and you are feeling the feels, you're going through it. And then it's easy when it comes to, or it can be easy depending on your situation. Again, this is my experience, not necessarily everyone's experience, but for me, recognizing that my body's reaction to somebody's energy, somebody's action, somebody's experiences is true and real. As somebody who is a people pleaser and the person in her family who kept the peace, I have abandoned myself over and over and over again, over and over and over again, so that I can make sure that everybody stays calm, so that everybody has everything that they need and nobody feels uncomfortable. I will take all that discomfort. I do not want people to feel uncomfortable, especially around me. And so it has been like my mission to make sure that I am that person in the family and that everything stays good, everything stays kosher. But in doing that, I have to abandon myself to do that. So lately, I've been really moving towards having the conversations. I'm not necessarily going back in time and being like, hey, 10 years ago when, but as things are coming up, I'm giving myself the opportunity to have these conversations, to call the person, to decide who I want to be in that situation, and detach myself from the outcome and from the meaning of what is happening. Because a lot of the times there's like stories that are told internally to myself of like, okay, well, if I do this, this is going to happen, or she's going to react this way, or they're going to have this type of feeling about it. They're going to feel this way. But in detaching from what I think might happen, I've been able to have these conversations. And what is so beautiful is that I am constantly surprised at the reaction of the people on the other end. Like, I am, in such a beautiful way. Like, if you can approach something from a place of kindness and groundedness in yourself, it starts with a groundedness in yourself to know, like, okay, this is not feeling good for me. So I want to get this out of my body for me, but I want to just like love this other human in the process as well. And if you just act from a place of love and safety in the body, that's really where it starts. Then you can have these conversations, or I've experienced that I can have these conversations with people that have felt so uncomfortable, like I want to die uncomfortable over the last few years. But maybe I'm just like, I'm a grown woman now or something. But like, having these conversations has been so healing for me. Oh, I'm like getting emotional now, because that means that I'm able to set myself free. I'm able to show up for myself and ask the questions I need to ask, instead of shying away and being like, oh, it's okay. Like, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, or, oh, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Like, I'll make excuses for whatever. And so being able to approach these things, it starts small. It starts so small. And simply sometimes just receiving feedback, or, it's been really, really, really beautiful. And I'm so grateful for these human beings that I've been able to have the conversation with, because then it brings a deeper depth to the relationship as well, which is honestly, I think, what we're all seeking. We're seeking depth from life right now. We are seeking depth and meaning and truth. Okay. And if we don't allow that for ourselves, if we don't allow ourselves to experience that, then you are inadvertently abandoning yourself every single time you don't allow yourself to experience truth and safety in the body. And again, that's where it all starts. If you can find that safety in the body, and you find that by little showing up for yourself every single day, maybe not all day, every day, but every single day. And you start to recognize, like, oh, in that moment, I realized that I didn't quite express exactly what I wanted to say, or I didn't quite do what I said I was going to do. I didn't hold that boundary with myself. So those are little moments of getting back to that peace, because once we show up for ourselves, then we build trust in ourselves. And as we're showing up for ourselves, we're listening to the body and we're making decisions based on that. And it's okay to make decisions based on a reaction from your body, because your body is having a reaction because it's acting from intuition. It's acting from um, innateness. It's acting from what is known. And if you're finding like, oh, that doesn't feel safe or that feels really uncomfortable, then have a truthful conversation. Ask questions, like of yourself first, and then filter out from there. It's really quite beautiful. It's really quite beautiful. But we got to stop abandoning ourselves. We have to stop abandoning ourselves for the sake of other people, for the sake of the family, for the sake of the job, for the sake of for the sake of the stories that we have created in our minds and in our bodies. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there. This is our 30-minute mark. And I hope that in me sharing this experience of myself, that this helped you to kind of uncover or start to uncover parts of yourself that maybe you have abandoned. And I want this to be like, as we move back into who we are as animals, really, as we move back into like primal humanity, it's such a beautiful, soft, safe place to be. That's where we get that safety. And then that's where we trust each other and have honest conversations and understand where people are coming from, and know where we're coming from, and start to just like uncover those bits of ourselves. So take a moment today, sit with yourself, and start to acknowledge like, or take stock of like, where have I been abandoning myself lately? Where can I show up better for me? Because mamas, women, people, humans, you are where everything flows from. And if you are not shown up for, nobody can show up for you except you. And when you start to show up for you, then other people know how to show up for you, right? So you need to start doing it for yourself before anyone else is going to. And it's a hard place to be. If that is your journey, I'm sorry, because it's a hard place to be, but I'm here, I'm with you, I'm doing it alongside you, and this is what needs to happen in order to wake us up, wake us up, wake us up to ourselves, so that you can make your way home, so that you can feel safe and grounded and secure in your body, and then operate from that place. Because when we operate from that place, oh my God, oh my God, that's when everything falls into place for us. I love you. Have an incredible day. And I cannot wait to talk to you again next week.